Karine, ça va? Ouais, écoute, là, Karine, c'est... Le centre-ville au complet est en feu. Karine, ça continue à péter, là, parce que les wagons n'ont pas tous pété, et puis ils pètent tous un par un, ça fait des boules de feu hallucinantes, là. Il y avait du monde au Music Café, Karine. Karine, j'ai jamais vu ça.
It happened in your town, you know, but it's just like you said. You seen that on TV, but when you seen that in real thing, the real thing, it's very different. You always think that these kind of things happen in some other town. You never think it's going to happen in your town, but it happened in our town.
So they've had articles in the local paper about the problem of having these trains come through Center City, and I know that my house is right in the burn zone or whatever it would be. It's only not like 2 blocks away from here, and I heard about the derailment in Quebec. You think the trains are super safe, but they do wreck every once in a while. And it's obviously could be really catastrophic.
So basically, yeah, there's been more awareness on the Bakken Crude, specifically because of some of the high-profile incidents that have happened throughout the country and Canada. Is there other hazard materials that I worry about equally? Yes.
By thousands of tons of hazardous materials that are shipped via rail transportation, the amount of incidents that have occurred are very minimal. So when you look at the numbers, rail traffic is very safe compared to normal highway transportation, for example.
So what about the derailment that happened this summer?
Specifically, which one are you talking about?
The derailment in Pittsburgh.
In Hazelwood?
Yes.
Yeah, we're aware of it. That was a minor derailment, obviously, with no hazard materials leaked. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really change our position.
10 cars toppled over, the wheels disconnected from those cars. The company wouldn't, though, answer our questions about whether any of these cars were carrying crude oil or chlorine, chemicals like that. We asked multiple times, they wouldn't say, and that's exactly what one CMU professor is very concerned about. He says
the train that derailed in Hazelwood was reported by some to be empty. But in reality, it's the same train that was coming in the full direction that we saw coming twice a day. We have photographic evidence that shows the compression springs of those tankers that thankfully did not explode. They were full. They were compressed. So we were in a very dangerous situation where if the derailment had happened maybe 30 cars later, we would have had a big explosion, or we could have had a very big explosion. And if that in turn had happened about 5 minutes later in its route, it would have been right through the most populated areas, and we could have easily killed a few thousand people. Some of the press around the train explosions, we've seen a number of things like what's the evacuation radius, what you would need to do to be prepared for this sort of event. And unfortunately, when we look at what happened in Lac Megantic, it happens really fast. It's a massive explosion. Each one of these cars is making fireballs of hundreds and hundreds of feet in diameter, and then the crude oil, which is in the process of burning and exploding, flows whatever direction it's going to flow coming from these cars, and there's just no time to get away.
And during the night, I was asleep. And the phone rang at about 1:30 in the morning. So, what the hell is going on? So I decided to answer. And finally, it was one of my buddy that he had to leave the town because of the fire. And he thought I was that I was at the music cafe because Yannick is my buddy, a good friend. So I used to go there for coffee or anything, and I'm always there.
Juste comme je fermais les fenêtres, je fermais la maison pour aller me coucher, la première explosion est arrivée. Je me suis dit, c'est quoi qui se passe? Puis là, il y a eu un flash. Puis tout le lac mégantic a éclairé orange. En pleine nuit, c'est venu dans les maisons à l'intérieur, comme un flash. Puis là, c'est là que j'étais à la fenêtre. Puis là, j'ai vu une explosion puis un souffle de chaleur. Je l'ai senti chez nous.
He told me, he said, the old town's in fire. I said, you kidding? No, he said, the old town's in fire. The train came off the rail and the old town's on fire. So I decided, I drove up to Lake Mégantic. But we couldn't get too close to the center. But you can see the fire miles away.
Je suis rentré à la maison, j'ai réveillé tout le monde. J'ai réveillé mes enfants, ma femme n'était pas couchée. Puis je dis, on s'en va. Puis là, je suis venu pour appeler mes employés pour leur dire, sortez, laissez tout là, c'est pas grave, on ira barrer demain. Sortez tout le monde. Puis là, j'ai eu l'appel, comme j'étais pour téléphoner, d'une serveuse qui sortait en courant. Parce qu'il y en avait 5 serveuses ce soir-là. Puis il y en a 2 qui sont sortis. Il y en a 3 qui sont décédés.
I was supposed to be at the music cafe, but something happened on my way up here. I forgot my cellular phone. I went back home. After that, I looked at it. I said, no, it's too late. I ain't going to Mégantic. I'm going to stay home. That's why I'm alive. Because if I were there, I know I would have died. I'm a lucky man.
Celle qui est sortie, ben là, elle criait, puis elle disait qu'il n'y avait plus de centre-ville, puis le musique café n'existait plus. Je me suis dit, pas, c'est impossible. J'étais assis là tantôt. Non, il n'y a plus rien, c'est fini. Puis elle criait, puis il y a des gens partout, il y a des gens à l'intérieur, ils sont pris. Puis là, je dis, calme-toi. Puis j'ai embarqué dans mon auto avec les enfants, puis je suis descendu. Et là, quand je suis arrivé, c'était fou. Il y avait un mur de feu de 300 pieds. C'était immense. L'église, elle avait l'air de ça, à côté du mur de feu. La grosse église qu'il y a là-bas. Crazy.
It's so hard to believe and to see that it happened 2 years ago, and I still don't understand. And I still don't believe it. Sometime I'm driving my truck and I got a flash of a person that died in it, some friend. It's really hard. It's really hard. And I've lost friends, but imagine the people that lost family, their daughter, their son. It must be really hard. It must be really hard.
We are still seeing many explosions a year, and it's a matter of time before one happens in a populated area again.
I know there's been a large undertaking by the Department of Transportation to strengthen the train cars. If you look at some of the cars that had been transporting block and crude, they were basically made for corn syrup is what they were designed for, and they were transitioned into block and crude. So the new DOT type train cars, unfortunately, some of the more recent incidents and derailments had been with the new rail cars.
So could you move the crude outside of Pittsburgh? Could you reroute around?
If you reroute trains, they have to go somewhere. So if you're rerouting around urbanized areas, which makes a a lot of sense, it's going to put additional stress in other communities that are perhaps a little less densely populated, but still populated nonetheless.
So the interesting thing about Texas is that the light ends, the propane and butane, is taken out of the oil before it's put into the cars. And in part, that's for safety, but in part, it makes economic sense in Texas because there are pipelines that let you take those lighter ends and bring them to the places where they'll be used. Unfortunately, in North Dakota, we don't have those pipelines in place.
So it's a big deal to put a pipeline in. There are, on average, 1.6 pipeline incidents per day around the country. So there are quite a few pipeline incidents, and some of those are catastrophic as well.
The other option that I've always thought about, but which I think is kind of cost prohibitive, is to refine the product closer to its source. So if you refined it, in the Dakotas, then you'd be shipping a more stable product. But I don't see that, I don't see anybody stepping up to build a refinery in the Dakotas to solve the problem anytime soon.
C'est presque un acte terroriste. C'est fou. Alors les compagnies, ils s'envoient la balle, ils ne veulent pas payer. Donc, je comprends, c'est jamais le fun de payer, mais nous, on a déjà payé très cher de ça. Alors c'est à leur tour. Moi, je fais une erreur monumentale, gigantesque. On me dirait, tu vas payer 1 mois de profit pour te racheter. On va tuer des gens, je le payerais, je dirais pas un mot. Je comprends pas qu'ils se battent pour ça encore. Je comprends pas. C'est ça, on est en cours avec ça. On va voir qu'est-ce que ça va donner.
When we look at how much profit is coming out of these oil fields, just from the Bakken alone, we have tens of billions of dollars of product going to the refinery. If we look at that and you think about, well, could we invest some of that in reducing risk to everyone kind of along the way? It seems to make some sense.
And so the train is probably, I would say, like less than 50 feet away from where I'm sitting. I guess what I've heard is that CSX is very secretive about what safety measures they have in place. They may be just saying that they can't tell you because they really don't have a plan and they're scared, that something's going to happen. When I give one of my students is like, what's happening with that assignment? It's like, oh, I'm working on it. I can't tell you about it right now, but I'm working on it. It's like, yeah, okay. Maybe that really means you're going to work on it tomorrow.
And look at what happened in Lac Megantic. You have this horrible explosion, wipes out half of the city. The only reason we didn't kill more than 47 people is that it was the middle of the night. It could have been much, much worse. If you look at that place today, everything that's flattened is still flattened with the exception of the railroad. So the railroad has been rebuilt and is moving crude oil again. So long as the oil companies don't have an economic incentive to make things safer, these other solutions, the solutions of taking the volatiles out and generating electricity on site, for example, don't make enough economic sense.
Again, my name is Matt Krog. I'm the Extreme Oil Campaign Director at Forest Ethics. And the spirit of full disclosure, my organization is on the record suggesting that the only safe train is no oil train. We're really going to be coming together, looking at collective development of strategies, trying to understand what local impacts look like together, and look at what we can do next.
What you're seeing is the explosion earlier this year, February 16th in Mount Carmel, West Virginia. And I just want to bring a few voices in the room of local people who were affected. These are voices of high school students in the nearby high school. I was watching TV and my house was shaking, so I walked outside to see what was going on, and there were flames in the air. People were leaving. My family and I had to go to the school because we had been evacuated. We came home around 11:30 at night, and another explosion had just happened. This was the scariest night of my life. I heard the word used bomb trains, but I didn't really comprehend what that means until you see these actual mushroom clouds, very violent. It is amazing. There were no fatalities in this incident. You can see down in front, that square foundation, that was a house. And the gentleman who was at home at the time heard, he described it as a fireball, and heard it coming, felt the heat coming, and ran out of there in his bare feet.
I was explaining that here in that kind of event, people are really like standing together and saying that we have to face this issue and to build the cooperation and take the power to empower ourselves. And of course, I agree, and I'm inspired by that because we were not in that kind of vibe in like Mégantic. We were really more like surviving, and that's all. But today, I'm feeling that it's beautiful to say that, and it's we have hope that maybe we're going to have enough power to stop those bomb trains. But the reality in my neighborhood is that we don't have this power yet.
Guess what the best maintained rails are? Passenger rails. So do we want hazardous materials on bad rails? No, we want them on the best rails possible, the best well-maintained ones. Unfortunately, the flip side of that is they run through urbanized areas. The conundrum we have is we want an informed public. We want people to know what the risks are. But the other side of it is we put too information out there. There are folks out there who have bad intentions. And it is good, but sometimes the bad guys don't need to know what the good guys know. So we have to be very selective about what we let out. Because if we give it to you all, it's in the public, and anybody can get it. So rest assured, believe me when I say, we have no desire to keep secrets from the people that pay our salary, and that's you all. But at the same time, we have an obligation to make sure the bad guys don't get the information that can make the situation worse.
These are unit trains of crude oil. I mean, to say that we're going to have some kind of security concerns here and not tell people the truth about it. I mean, these are elephants tiptoeing through the tulips, folks. I mean, this is not something that any terrorist is going to have any trouble figuring out, right?
You're an expert.
No, stop.
You actually have the expert knowledge that I don't have.
Let me finish.
I mean, in other words, if you're saying the reason that we're not giving this information to the public is because it would threaten the rail company's profits. And
No, it has nothing to do with that.
I mean, for a little bit, even in here, it got a little real with the whole terrorism thing, because there are some people who would want this information and would do very horrible things with it. But at the same time, it is a democracy. What we need to find out is who's making these decisions on where the trains are going. Like, there's no reason why I can't figure out who or why trains are going into poor neighborhoods, in the African American neighborhoods. Like, it's nothing. Like, so I think that's one of the biggest issues, even more than the terrorism thing.
As this kind of photo montage illustrates, I'll talk a little bit about disproportionate exposure to oil train hazards, a little bit about disproportionate impacts, and certainly about differential, even the systems that respond to these things, how different communities have different access to response systems.
We look at the environmental issues that we've been fighting as civil rights issues. When you talk about economics, the people who actually invest in these ventures are not the people who live right by the tracks. So there's the conflict that comes with that. The investor is the person who's safe from it.
Personally, last year I was really depressed seeing that we were not having any here from the city council, and I really wanted to quit, to go away from this town. But I can't, because my son is there and my ex is there and my life is there. And that's why I was always almost crying a few minutes away, because they were talking about that, what I started with, the power and I was trying to, and even I raised my hand, and this girl the girl that I was talking to you yesterday, yeah. She was the one that was, how do we say, managing the conversation. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she saw me and she was like, and she chose somebody else. I was like, It's okay. I mean, it's okay. that maybe she's not trusting me that I'm gonna express myself right, or
what would you have wanted to say?
I was just trying to say that that it's not true, that it's not so easy to be heard and to change things, because there's a lot of economic issue, and they are having the power. They really have. We just don't care. They need to pass, and this is the oil is the profit, so that's it, you know? Fuck off. You're feeling, you have anxiety, you have insomnia during the night. Oh, sorry about that, but the rail is there and we have to pass. I mean, that's it. They just don't care about you. It's easy to just, talk about what we had and or for us, and this is the big explosion, and check this photo, and I'm gonna have some, but I think that the major part is really trying to express what we are struggling right now.
So Marlene's going to share her story, and we'll have time for question and answer. But it's really a great honor to be able to introduce her and have her with us. So,
hi, everybody.
Bonsoir.
Woohoo, bonsoir. First of all, I would like to say that quite often here I am introduced as a survivor. I would really like to specify a few things about this. I did not have to run away from the flames, but many people did. And in order to respect those that suffer very, very hard and they were very close to the disaster, I would rather not be called a survivor, because I was not one of those.
Ça a été très, très difficile à reconstruire. Et, jamais j'aurais pensé que ça serait aussi dur. Puis moi, c'est ça, j'avais comme la pression. Les gens ils voulaient que je revienne et que je fasse quelque chose. Fait que j'ai pris la décision. C'est sûr qu'il y a des matins que ça me tentait plus du tout, mais c'était trop tard, j'avais embarqué dans le processus.
I don't know, I don't see the day that they're gonna rebuild, because like I said, everybody is already relocated. All the shops, all the people that were doing something, offering services or something, they all are relocated. It's 2.5 years after. It's too long. The process is too long. They just finished the decontamination last month. They were telling us that it was supposed to be finished at the end of December 2014, and we are 1 year after, so.
On a commencé très, très tôt. Je crois que 2 ou 3 semaines après la tragédie, j'avais été rencontrer des gens qui voulaient donner un coup de main sur la reconstruction. Mais ça va bien. On a commencé au mois de décembre, puis il faut remettre une âme ici. Parce que là-bas, il y avait une ambiance, les gens ils connaissaient la place, c'était leur place. Ici, il faut tout recommencer, c'est une place neuve. Alors, pas vide, mais presque, c'est neuf. Là, les gens ils doivent se refaire des souvenirs. Des soirées comme hier, ça fait des souvenirs. C'est ça que ça en prend. Que les gens fassent c'est notre place.
So yeah, I can say that right now, I think I'm going to finish with this. I can feel like hope. I can feel like people are organizing and getting angry and understanding that it's important to be outside and to gather and to share possibilities. But I can assure you that I never seen structure or something real that I can see here. And that's why I'm here. It's really like Ethan said, to be inspired, and you are really inspiring me. I still have some hope that with that kind of connection that I have here in USA, that maybe we can do something, you know, maybe if we are enough people, maybe we can do it. So that's why I'm here. I still have some flame in me that's, you know, the little hope that as a citizen we can change things.